fighting games really are carried by their characters. And while I myself am mainly a Tekken and SNK follower, there is one franchise that I have been avoiding, and I really shouldn't, because that franchise has many awesome characters that I like a lot. Street Fighter. If there's one thing that Capcom almost always gets right, is that they use a lot of simplicity, but very little subtlety, which can lead to some over-the-top, but yet still very charming and likable characters. The other day it suddenly hit me. Maybe I should do a top 10 list on my favorite Street Fighter characters. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do here. I'm gonna tell you my top 10 favorite World Warriors in the Street Fighter universe. Also a bit of a disclaimer and an honorable mention. Honorable number 11 will go to Ryu, Ken, and Chun-Li. Those are awesome characters in their own right, and I do like them a lot, but the characters I've chosen, I find them better for myself personally, so sorry if those are some of your favorite characters and they didn't make my top 10. But hey, my list, you don't like it, make your own, blah 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 blah. Okay, let's begin. Entering the ring at number 10, we have Rainbow Mika. Rainbow Mika is one of those only female characters I will go to immediately on the roster for both her playstyle and her personality. If you can't tell by looking at her, Rainbow Mika is a wrestler, and she first debuted in Street Fighter Alpha 3, where she entered the World Warrior circuit in order to expand her wrestling prowess as well as get in some training. Fortunately for her, she came across two other World Warriors that helped her with both those things. Karen Kanzuki, who also entered the World Warrior circuit and first debuted in Street Fighter Alpha 3, and Zangief, who would later become Master Zangief to her, who first debuted in Street Fighter 2. Because of Rainbow Mika's skill and strength, Karen Kanzuki saw potential in her and decided to become Rainbow Mika's sponsor, and Zangief preached and taught her the philosophies of muscle spirit, which she herself preaches and practices non-stop. Also, just the way she looks at Zangief.
That's incredible! Totally awesome!
Note to self, bring a gun against Zangief, bring a towel for Mika.
My name is Seth.
If you followed a lot of competitive Street Fighter 4, it was very difficult to see a top 8 without Seth. Not only was he a pretty unique boss character, but he was also one of the top tier characters no matter which edition of the game was out. Seth had so many tools working in his favor in Street Fighter 4. Unfortunately, the one thing that didn't really work for him was his personality and his placement in the story. Now, while he did have several moves, the one thing that stood out to people that they didn't like about him is that he had moves of other characters that people would have preferred to have in this game. For example, he had the shoulder tackle, which is very similar to Urien and Gil, as well as the rising elbow, and on top of that, he had arguably better versions of other characters' moves. Seriously, you saw this fella throw more sonic booms than Guile did. A top tier character that replaced beloved villains, he actually wasn't really well received. So, when it was announced that he was returning for Street Fighter V, people were arguably mixed. But, once they saw that reveal trailer,
I have the most awkward boner!
The story reason for this change is, well, it was actually an honest mistake. Juri was meant to upload Seth's AI into a new body, but she was unaware there were actually different genders for the bodies. And she was like, why are there different genders? But anyway, that's why Seth has a female body, despite still having a dude's voice, which is both hilarious and, well, something else. But anyway, now Seth still does have other people's moves, but unlike Street Fighter 4, where you borrow moves from most of the Street Fighter cast, a lot of his moves are now taken from Vampire Savior's Darkstalkers, and he even has one, which is from a JoJo fighting game, that was also developed by Capcom. So, Seth, more specifically, Street Fighter V Seth, takes the number 9 spot on my list. He's over the top, or she, I still get confused about that. Very goofy, very stupid, and I love it. So yep, number 9 goes to Seth.
Data is now useless. Witness the power of the content engine. This is the power of the king!
Harmony. That is the truth of what you must seek.
Of the Street Fighter bosses, Gil is my favorite. Character-wise, people do prefer his younger brother Urien due to the fact he has an inferiority complex and that he's a mental nutcase. Though personally, I do prefer Gil. For some reason, we all tend to gravitate towards characters that are either complete nutcases or... yeah, complete nutcases. But Gil is rather level-headed and he's pretty benevolent. Now, I've already gone into great detail about this character before in one of my Art of Impact videos, so I won't go into too much detail here and waste your time. So I'll just give you the basics. What I love about Gil is how he went from being a charge motion character like his brother Urien into a command motion character, where the quarter circle back motions are his ice attacks and the quarter circle forward motions are his fire attacks. So yeah, similar to Seth, the Street Fighter V version of Gil is the one I'm going to be putting on my list. I would put the Street Fighter III version of him, but memories of him being a cheap as hell boss kind of brought that one down. Thankfully, he's pretty damn cool in Street Fighter V, until you play the arcade mode and you go to the Street Fighter III ladder, in which case your nightmares reawaken. Well, yeah, aside from that, Gil is a fun character with some fun combos, and the way he was revamped in this game, it's just something I gravitate towards a lot. Not to mention, him being a motion character, I can play him much easier than Urien. So, you can also contribute my decision to my scrubbiness, per se. Also, Gil acting the way he does is very hilarious on some stages, like here on the Kanzuki Beach stage. Look at him strutting around like he owns the damn place. But then again, if I wasn't so fat and I looked like this bugger, I'd probably be strutting around that way too. Long story short, number 8 goes to Gil. Of all the original champion bosses, Balrog, Vega, Sagat, and Bison, Balrog is my favorite of them. Yep, I like him even more than Sagat. Balrog's style of boxing is typically referred to as dirty boxing, where you use things like elbows and a few headbutts, basically illegal blows. However, I like to refer to that as bare knuckle boxing, which, you know, was the original form of boxing from a few centuries ago. Basically, that form of boxing was basically just brawling. There was nothing professional about it. And get this, fun fact, rounds back in those days, it used to be 100 rounds. So yeah, I'd say Balrog is definitely representing the art of boxing pretty damn well with the way he fights. Especially considering how brutal he is. Seriously, look at his supers.
No way! I'll pulverize you! You ain't getting away!
Another thing I really like about Balrog is his name. And I don't mean it as a reference to anything. I mean just the fact that the name Balrog wasn't originally meant to be his name. If you remember Street Fighter 1, there was a character named Mike. And Balrog in this game, he was originally meant to be Mike as well. In fact, his name was meant to be Mike Bison. Now, I'm pretty sure all of you have heard about this changing of the names for international purposes before, but I'll go over it again just in case any of you don't know. So, in the West, Mike Bison's name was changed to Balrog, and the name Mike was just changed to M and became Master Bison for the original boss, Vega. And the character Vega, in Japan, his name was originally Balrog, because a Balrog is a type of bull, and he was inspired by Spanish bullfighters. This changing of the names for the West came about because Capcom wanted to avoid a lawsuit because real-life professional boxer Mike Tyson was going through a lawsuit in court, and any character associated with him could have led to potential trouble. Even though that wasn't really the case, because there would have been any trouble at all. Even real-life boxer Mike Tyson himself said there wouldn't be any trouble. With these name changes now being official and sealed in stone, in order to save confusion at international tournaments, now they are given simple descriptions for the characters. M. Bison is Dictator, Vega is Claw, and Balrog is simply Boxer. The second and main reason Balrog makes my countdown at number 7 is because of the character growth that he went through in Street Fighter V, thanks to the other character from Season 2, Ed, who Balrog saved in his ending in Street Fighter 4. So in Street Fighter V, Ed and Balrog worked together behind Shadowloo's back in order to sell high to make lots of money, doing jobs to get rich quick, and they even do a job for Urien in the story mode. So basically they intend to sell off Shadowloo's plans in order to make a lot of money. After Shadowloo falls, however, they're on their own, and they still intend to stick to their original plan to make a lot of money by doing a lot of really dangerous jobs. Along the way though, they do develop a type of father-son relationship, where Balrog not only teaches Ed how to fight, but he's also watching his back, and Ed in turn is watching his. And along the way they'd have a falling out because Ed is constantly having nightmares and he's worried that he's gonna hurt Balrog. So moments like these two in their stories, you get to see these characters care for one another, and after their fight where Ed proves that he needs to be on his own, this happens.
Beat it. Get lost!
The story mode artwork does not do a moment like that justice, because you can definitely hear in Balrog's voice how saddened he is that Ed is leaving. But he respects Ed's choice, and he wants him to be his own person. So for that alone, with how much Balrog was growing as a character, while Ed's body was growing and getting out of control, that right there puts him at number 7 on my list. Good work, Balrog. Moving on from the uncouth brawler, we have the gentleman boxer, Dudley from Street Fighter 3, who also made an appearance in Super Street Fighter 4. In comparison to Balrog's boxing, which is more about overwhelming his opponent with his power, Dudley's is more about precise movement and carefully placed counters. He has a lot of moves that revolve around feints, and he even has one of the best counters in the game. Also, I just really love the way Dudley moves. He's one of the best animated boxers in fighting games. As far as his backstory goes, in Street Fighter 3, he really just entered the tournament to find his missing car, which used to belong to his father. So, yeah, pretty straightforward. He entered the tournament just to get his car back from the organization that took it, which of course was the Secret Society and the Illuminati. Dudley is also a very respected heavyweight champion. He is the British heavyweight champion, and he enters the tournament to also test his boxing skills against other fighting styles. And he also does make a couple of friends along the way, one of them being Elena, which he teams up with in Street Fighter Cross Tekken briefly. He's very suave and sophisticated, and when he's not using his gloves in the boxing ring, he's using them to trim the hedges in his garden. And he also keeps his gloves on when he drinks tea. I don't know why, but apparently that's what boxers in fighting games like to do. And by do, I mean never take their gloves off. Seriously, why do they always wear them? Well, anyway, another reason why I like Dudley a lot is that if you know who Smug is, one of the professional Street Fighter players who still plays Street Fighter V, he has a really good Dudley, and the amount of loops and combos that Dudley has, they are friggin' awesome to watch. Seriously, the way he moves and the different frame lengths that he has, that's another reason why he's so high on the list. It just looks so damn cool. I wish I could do it myself, but unfortunately, I'm not very good at Street Fighter. However, the main thing that puts Dudley above Balrog, even though I love Balrog as a character as well, is that with Dudley, he is a person who believes there are no shortcuts in life. The only way you are going to get anywhere is hard work and dedication, which is of course how he got to the status that he has. So I can really respect that about the character. Balrog, yeah, he takes on all these dangerous jobs, and he does so to get rich quick and just live the easy life. But Dudley, the life that he has, he earned it, and he done it through hard dedicated training to his boxing, and yeah, that's pretty self-explanatory why I like him. He's just a really hard-working gentleman. And I can't put it any better than that. So Dudley, he earns this spot on my list because he's one badass gentleman boxer, and if you doubt him, he will be more than happy to crack you in the teeth. And then he'll give you tea afterwards.
Perhaps it's time to hang up your gloves for good.